The words Trump couldn't bring himself to say. Just think how much you're going to be missing, the defeated Republican said. You don't have Nixon to kick around anymore, because gentlemen, this is my last press conference, and it will be one in which I have welcomed the opportunity to test wits with you. It turned out to be far from the last press conference for Nixon, who won the presidency in 1968 and in 1972. But its petulant tone made political history. The true goal of Elder's Republican backers appeared to be for him to at least lose by a margin that would allow them to contest the results in order to claim that Democrats had once again engaged in magical manipulation of ballots, voting machines, or the brains of voters themselves, thus making the election seem null and void and expanding already widespread doubt and paranoia about the nature of our democracy. That corrosive approach to politics seems certain to survive Elder's crushing defeat. Republicans are no longer running against Democrats. They are running against democracy, Yang concluded, but Obeidallah added that one glaring difference is that the Al-Qaeda attackers were incited and directed by Osama bin Laden, while January 6 attackers were incited by an American president, Donald Trump. It was Trump who for the 2 months after the election radicalized people with a tsunami of lies, claiming that the election was stolen.
California's election results, with Newsom decisively quashing the recall, may have national implications for the 2022 midterms, wrote Lincoln Mitchell. The recall was a referendum on Newsom, but indirectly on Biden and the Democrats as well. The numbers show that it wasn't close and that Californians, including the white women whose support is so crucial to the GOP's future in the state, were not buying whatever the GOP and Elder were selling, Mitchell noted. General Mark Milley calls what Milley did was put his country above his commander-in-chief. Given the irrational rage that Trump was exhibiting after his election loss, Milley made the right call to reassure the Chinese about the stability of the U.S. national security apparatus. But Milley's actions could set a dangerous precedent, and we should carefully consider how high-ranking military officers and future administrations might insert themselves into the chain of command under a different president. In the Washington Post, Josh Rogin wrote, "The legitimate criticism of Milley is not that he betrayed the country to China. Milley's failing was that he believed, according to this and many other recent books, that it was his job to save the republic from the president. Milley's offense was not treason, it was hubris. Milley was just doing his job," wrote retired Lieutenant General Mark Hertling. Given that the former president had already made worrisome comments about summarily pulling U.S. forces out of various areas around the world, and given media reports of Trump's earlier threats to attack other nations, Milley found it necessary to communicate directly with his counterparts overseas, with whom he had a professional relationship. He was right to do so, because he was reacting to the realities on the ground. Straight talk with our allies and partners, lowering the temperature when tensions are rising, is critical to avoiding misunderstandings and perhaps deadly unintentional consequences. Melania Trump in Stephanie Grisham's book. Politico reported that in Stephanie Grisham's forthcoming book, the former White House press secretary contends that Melania Trump ducked opportunities to condemn the January 6 violence and to invite Jill Biden for the traditional tea provided by outgoing first ladies. Every word of Grisham's forthcoming tell-all might be true, wrote Jill Filipovic. It might accurately paint Donald, Melania, and many of their family members and staffers as among the most deplorable and morally hideous people to ever occupy the White House. But don't forget, Grisham isn't a light illuminating the Trump administration's darkness. She is one of them, who pushed Trump's vile messages and left America cracked and perhaps forever wrecked. We can be glad the truth about Melania is being told. But we do not have to rehabilitate the reputation of someone who, like the Trumps, has never apologized, never tried to make amends, and never been held fully accountable. To boost or not to boost, the Delta variant may finally have peaked in the U.S., wrote Dr. Ken Sepkowitz. So is it time to declare victory over COVID-19? Of course not, he argued. The COVID-19 pandemic isn't going to miraculously disappear, as with the previous claims of victory based on a few weeks of improvement. Celebrating any end of the pandemic surely is a mistake. We have new variants to worry about, immunity possibly waning in the elderly, the cruel recalcitrance of those refusing vaccination, the uneven global distribution of the vaccine and roughly 50 million children in the US who aren't even eligible for vaccine yet. Scientists are debating the case for vaccine booster shots. In The Lancet, leading experts, including 2 scientists who are stepping down from the FDA's Office of Vaccines Research and Review, said the current evidence does not appear to show a need for boosting in the general population, in which efficacy against severe disease remains high. Other scientists, including Dr. Anthony Fauci, director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Disease, disagreed. On Friday, scientists advising the FDA recommended boosters of the Pfizer vaccine only for those 65 and older or people at high risk of developing a severe case of COVID-19. It's not that the vaccines don't work well, Hasseltine noted, but because coronaviruses, like influenza viruses, are masters at evading the immune system. SARS-CoV-2 can turn off our body's ability to mount an innate immune response, which means, for protection, vaccine-induced neutralizing antibodies must be significant and powerful. The school district that serves more than 600,000 students in Los Angeles is requiring vaccinations for in-person classes, as Dr. Smita Malhotra noted. As the district's medical director, she wrote, "This bold decision by our school board is sound and backed by science. It is one that I hope will spark a trend across the country and the world that emboldens social responsibility. Our school board and superintendent understand that vaccinations will bring back in-person learning in the safest way possible, and more importantly, that it's the right thing to do for communities and children, especially for those children, like my own, who are too young to receive a vaccine." For more Nicole Hemmer, The Tricky Agenda Behind Vaccine Resistance, Peggy Drexler, The Real Issue with Nicki Minaj Tax the Rich.
Thank you for watching. Please subscribe,